afford it.
Here's a little this tough love. If you're at the point where you're overwhelmed and you don't have enough time to do what needs to be done and you don't have the resources to hire, then the only question to ask is figure out what you're going to stop doing.
Yep. Welcome to Gracecast, a show where the top tactics for selling direct to consumer are expanded to get results for perishable food suppliers. If you're in the fresh and frozen categories and you're looking for the latest insights on e-commerce, marketing, and business, subscribe and stay tuned. Hey there, and welcome back to Gracecast. It's Blaine and Brooks Hitsfield, as always, coming to you from the office here at Seven Sons Farms in Roanoke, Indiana. Today, the goal of this episode is to answer really just one really critical question, and that is, how do you know when it's time to make your next hire?
Yep.
You know, Blaine, I think it's something to where no one's really ever at this point where like, yeah, I got enough help. I don't, really couldn't use any extra at this point.
Yeah.
Usually most people I'm talking to are pretty overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to do in this business, especially if you're in the farm to fork world where you have a production business plus a direct marketing business, right? You're tapping into several different industries there that you're trying to replicate. So if you're trying to do this all on your own or with a small team, you could probably always use some extra help, but it might not always be economical for you to do that, right? So how do you actually know when is it time to, make that next hire? That's what we're trying to answer today.
I think we all get to the place where we realize, hey, we're overwhelmed, overworked in a certain area, but yet we don't have the resource to make the hire. So we're going to walk through, Brooks, 3 really critical questions, helpful questions to ask before making either your first hire or your next hire. This will keep you on track and you'll get clarity as to know not only when to hire, if you should hire, and what you should be delegating. So
Yep. And this is an important episode because there's a lot at stake if you don't stay on top of this and really get the sequencing of this right? You talk about burnout as the common thing that, is on everyone's mind. How do you know when is, when you're just doing too much and how long you can sustain that?
I believe, especially in farm to fork, stack battle enterprises, Brooks, I think burnout is one of the top reasons farms and direct marketing businesses fail. Cash flow is one of them, but burnout is also top of the list.
Yep. And it takes grit to, make it in this business, right? It's not easy to do, so you have to have that grit. But they're definitely, everyone has that breaking point. So sequencing when to bring on extra help and expand that team is really, really important to get right.
Yeah, and this is a filter. These 3 questions, Brooks, we basically have built into our business and way of operating that we're asking these questions literally all the time, not only when we're hiring, but all the time. And so is our team.
Yeah, so you can know when it's time to make that next hire. Again, we're just answering this with 3 other questions. The first one is, really all these questions are reflection questions. So sit down, whether it's with yourself or with your team, but ask yourself, is there anything right now that I can stop doing? That's the first one.
Just you or as your business, what can you stop doing?
So this is really, you need to take inventory, get the lay of the land, really what's on your plate in order to identify anything that's not really adding enough value for it to be worth your time. There's several examples I'm sure that you can probably think of from early on.
And let's not kid ourselves. This seems like a simple question, but there is always things that we should and can stop doing. So there's always things we can do. And I think this is so important to ask if you are in the production business. I know, Brooks, earlier on, and I see this all the time in our business, in our industry, is people burning out, and it's usually death. What we call it, death by diversity. We're in the business of, especially on the farm side, we want to encourage diversity. That's a good thing. But there's also a point in which there's too much business diversity, and we get completely overwhelmed. So just quick examples, Brooks. We stopped doing our own chicken processing. We stopped raising our own calves for the animals that we're finishing on our farm. We stopped raising our own hens. We stopped our beef genetic program. All things that just took massive loads of time and bandwidth. We offloaded it from our business.
Yeah, but you're leaving some things out of there too. We used to raise our own. I know there's a time growing up where we raised our own brooder chicks. We did even some of our own poultry processing at some point. Some of that was because of necessity, but once you can get to that point where that's not necessary anymore, again, you're just always going to reach those points where there's something that can come off your plate and you can just stop doing.
Sometimes the simple things, Brooks, we stopped taking cash and check back when we did buying clubs because with all the logistics of handling paperwork, cash, and checks, we almost really needed to have two people on the truck to make it a good experience for our customers. I know some farms and direct marketing businesses that have pickup locations are okay with making customers stand in line for a long time. We were not. So we had two people on a delivery truck. Really, we just realized eventually that it was just because we weren't streamlined enough with those deliveries. So we stopped taking cash and check. And that allowed us to get just one driver on the truck. Yeah, freed up an entire person.
Yep. So this, out of the three questions we're going to go through, in my mind, is actually the hardest one. When I sit down and look at this, the hardest one to kind of answer. But one thing that's been helpful is we all have those days, where you felt like it was really busy, right? And you're busy the whole day, but then you look back at the end of the day and you ask yourself, man, what in the world did I get done?
Yeah.
Stop on those days and really take some extra time to reflect, because more often than not, there's something in there that you can probably stop doing or do less of to free up some additional time and bandwidth.
Everyone has a to-do list, Brooks, but we need, just as important, or maybe more important, is to have a not to do list.
Yep.
Alan Nation always said in one of his books I remember reading that the first step to any growth is to first figure out what you're going to stop doing.
Yep.
That really good wisdom there.
So again, in going through these questions, what we're really trying to do is try to see what can you free up off of your plate, right? To get rid of some of that overwhelm and make it less likely you're going to hit that burnout phase before having to take that step to hire, right? So where you're more likely, once you do have to take that step to hire, you financially can afford it.
Here's a little this tough love. If you're at the point where you're overwhelmed and you don't have enough time to do what needs to be done and you don't have the resources to hire, then the only question to ask is figure out what you're going to stop doing.
Yep. And then that leads right into our second question here, which is somewhat similar but a little bit different. Is there anything I'm doing right now that can be automated?
Yeah.
So before we're asking, is there anything you can completely stop, just doesn't add enough value to continue? Here we're asking, is there anything that can be automated, whether that's with technology or really streamlining a process through taking a different approach? That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I remember early on, Brooks, I was overwhelmed the first time I realized we needed to set up payroll because we were getting into that phase of hiring. Completely overwhelmed with the setup of it, maintaining it, and one of the first things we found was an automated payroll service that, it cost, it's actually affordable monthly fee. I forget what service we started off with, but that's something we've automated.
Gusto Payroll, that was the early one. We're now using QuickBooks as a payroll tool as well. But yeah, that was an easy win. Didn't even really have to figure out an internal process to even start doing something. You just automated it, at the get-go, right?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Several other things that I think of is, number one, we actually talk about this quite often on the podcast, but is our email marketing.
Yeah.
Email marketing is an incredible growth strategy, retention and loyalty strategy for any direct marketing business. But it takes a lot of time and effort. It's not a walk in the park. Something we've started doing, though, is we utilize a tool called Drip, which is really, they advertise themselves as an e-commerce automation software, but it's specifically an email automation software. And we are, on any given week, Blaine, probably sending out hundreds of different types of emails to our customers based on where they're at in the buying process, whether they're a new customer, a really loyal customer,
or haven't purchased in a while. They'll get certain emails.
Exactly. Hundreds of different emails that are going out every single week. And there's only one of them that we actually send manually, and that's our weekly newsletter. Everything else has been written. It's in a workflow that basically gets triggered when certain things happen. And that's the power of that email automation.
Something every business should be doing is following up with customers that stop buying. We've automated that with email, for example.
Yep.
Back to the business operations, Brooks. We've automated our billing, not billing, but our basically our payments.
The accounts payable.
Yes.
So, for example, as far as, any bills that we have to pay, if we're writing all of those with checks out of QuickBooks and things like that, there's actually a service called bill.com where they'll take that whole piece off for you. So basically it's just all automated. You enter in that invoice and they have, I'm sure, technology and people then that automates the whole process and issue checks on your behalf. Really, really neat service. And that actually took a lot of time off of our plate.
Examples back to the farm side of things, Brooks. Investing in our egg processing equipment was a no-brainer. That took so much time from us and time that we didn't have to hire. Upgrading to roll-out nesters eliminated the amount of dirty eggs and the amount of time spent washing and time spent gathering just equipment things.
There's a ton of opportunity here, and I think this is where it's helpful to look at other businesses that are maybe a few steps ahead of you and ask, what are some of the things that you guys were able to automate to really free up a lot of time? Because this is where creativity, experience really comes into play to even kind of figure out, hey, where's the opportunity here? Because Blaine, we have a list where we can go on and on and on things that and this is fun stuff for us to talk about. But we're going to move into the last question, which is there anything I can delegate? So basically, if you've answered no to the first two questions, you can't stop doing anything else. You've pretty much cleared that up. You've automated everything that you can kind of think of. At that point, if you've gotten to there, now you've probably come to the conclusion that it is time to hire.
Now the question is, so what are those tasks that I should prioritize hiring for or delegating?
That's the goal of this final question, really, is to kind of help come up with what's this person going to be doing. What can probably help you come up with a job description. It can also help you determine whether or not you need to hire someone full-time, part-time, or if you can get by with fractional, contract help.
Contract help
in the equation, which it's a great thing to actually look at first. Can you just bring someone in who's an expert in this area, depending on what the role is? If it's a professional type work that maybe you're not, go real deep in and you're not really that great at, bring in someone with that professional expertise who can come in on a contract basis, limited time basis instead.
Yeah, one of the first examples that comes to my mind, Brooks, for our business, something we did early, and which I'm glad we did, was just the accounting financial analysis side, where we started off very, very fractional with that. We're very intentional with that. Another area is email marketing, Brooks. We brought in someone on a fractional basis to get started with, and those were all big wins. But let's ask. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, just thinking about this though in terms of delegation.
Yep.
The reason why we asked this though is because that can help to really help you identify the lowest hanging fruits of the easiest hires that can be made in the business.
Yeah.
So how do you identify those things that maybe are best for you to delegate?
Well, so one of the questions we asked, Brooks, is what are the things that we're doing that we would consider drudgery items? And when I say drudgery items, we're talking about things that we're not good at, we're very slow, and we do not like it, okay? So we're not really qualified, and it's not really something we enjoy doing. That's drudgery work. So we want to take a hard look at that first, and prioritize getting things off our plate that are really just mentally bogging us down and slowing us down. So that's one thing that I would think about there. The other types of tasks, Brooks, that we talk about and think about around here is what we call distraction task. And we think about these in terms of what are things that maybe we enjoy doing, but we're not good at them. We're really slow at them. Those are what I would call my distract. Those are the days where I'm trying to zone out, and I find something. I love dabbling in this. I know I'm not very good at it. I know I would need to take more training to get good at it. But those are distraction tasks. Yep. So let's prioritize eliminating those.
So sometimes this is helpful. We like lists around here. So sometimes it's just helpful to start 2 lists there: drudgery tasks, distraction type tasks. Write all those out. Try to find commonalities to see, like, hey, is there a role within this somewhere? Yeah. Is there someone who would actually be good at all these different types of things, or could fill some of these things in their downtime to end up making a part-time, full-time role out of it?
Something else we think about is there may be some tasks, Brooks, that, hey, we have a knack for and we enjoy doing, but they're just low-value tasks. Those are items, first candidate items to look at delegating to other folks. So what we want to be doing, the goal here, Brooks, and we talk about this as a team, we want to be spending 50 to 80% of our time doing things that are high value, we're good at, and we're qualified to do it. We enjoy doing it. We want to be in that zone 50 to 80% of the time. There's always going to be a certain element of drudgery and maybe distraction task that we're doing, but we should be looking to eliminate those as much as possible. So that's how we think about prioritizing what needs to be delegated first. I mean, we have to understand that, a good question to ask, Brooks, maybe is, would you consider your hourly wage to be? So, is it $15 an hour? I hope it's more than that. Is it $25, $50 an hour? Now you can begin to look at the tasks that you're doing. It's like, hey, listen, I know that I can delegate egg gathering to some high school kids that would love the money.
Get it done for less.
I get it done for far less. So that's another way to prioritize.
And that's why it's important to think about what is distraction and drudgery type work versus things that you're actually really good at, and things that really add value to the business. So make sure you're spending your time there, because it's one thing to delegate something off that is too low value for you to be doing that you can delegate to someone else, but you need to make sure you take that free time, put it in high leverage activities,
or else it can get sucked up so quick with the vacuum of distraction work and drudgery work.
So there you have it. Hopefully this has been helpful. This is just kind of the way that we really think about, our next hire and a practice that we try to operationalize in our business.
It's really philosophy to how we do business, how we think about our work. Brooks.
And even as the team's expanded, if someone else comes to us who's managing a team and says, hey, I really think it's time we need more help here. Hey, we're reminding everyone, well, let's go through this practice, ask these 3 questions to see if we're really at that point to where, the only option is to expand the team.
Yes, and get rid of that limiting belief that no one would ever want to do this work.
Yep.
There's always someone that is far better and would enjoy doing the things that you absolutely are not qualified to do and do not enjoy doing.
So there you go. Start making your list. Find things you can stop doing. Try to identify those things that can be automated with technology and systems, and then make those list of things that you can delegate, drudgery and distraction type work. This has been a fun episode. If you guys are interested in kind of digging deeper into some of these things and really productivity as a whole, one of our business mentors is a gentleman by the name of Michael Hyatt, and he wrote a book, Blaine, that I just wanted to plug at the bottom of this episode called Free to Focus. Really, the mantra of the whole book is achieve more by doing less. I'm reading the cover here right now. So a lot of good productivity strategies. A lot of these frameworks and questions that we reviewed today came out of a lot of his teachings, and I know some of those are written into here inside of this book. So that's going to be a resource that we'll include on Amazon, wherever you can pick that up down at the bottom. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you here in the next episode soon.